Hi, this is Ryan Neal from the USA offices of Neal's Saddlery and Harness, Cowboy Sewing Machines, and High-Tech Sewing Machines. And today we're going to do a maintenance video and a little bit of an operational video so you can understand how to work our model 8020 leather splitting machine a little bit better. So I'm going to have the camera pan in for certain angles here so you can see a little bit better on what you can get a little bit better vantage point on what it is that I'm trying to indicate here. So this machine does require a certain amount of lubrication, although you won't have to lubricate it very frequently, but I will illustrate the points where it does in fact need to be lubricated. So anywhere where you see a red dot on the casting is a good place to lubricate. So where this red dot is right here is a good place to lubricate. There's a red dot right here. That is also a good place to lubricate. I'll have the camera come around over on this side, and you'll see tucked back in the casting there is in fact another red dot. That is a good place to lubricate as well. On this side of the sewing, or this side of the splitting machine, you would probably also want to put some gear oil on these gears every once in a while just to keep them moist and make sure that they don't chatter excessively. Coming over to the other side of the splitting machine, you'll see that there's a red dot right here in the casting. There's also a red dot right here in the casting, and then I'll have the camera come over on the other side, and you'll see tucked in there is also another red dot. So you do want to put some sewing machine oil in those dots, or sorry, in where those red dots are at. Then also on this side there is another gear assembly, and you do want to go ahead and put some 90 weight gear oil, or just a good heavyweight gear oil on these gears, and then run the machine to make sure that the oil is circulated throughout the gears. There are also some other lubrication points that are not as clearly marked on the machine, and that would be the little gap that exists here between the top roller and the casting journal. And then over here on this side there's another gap that exists between the top roller and the casting journal. Those are good places to lubricate. Also where the bottom roller is, the roller that has the teeth on it, you would want to lubricate between the roller and the casting journal right here, as well as the roller on this side and the casting journal on that side as well. There are some springs that are on the side of the machine. Every once in a while it wouldn't hurt to put a little bit of lubrication on these springs, because these springs, inside these springs is a shaft, so you do want to lubricate those every once in a while. I'll have the camera come a little bit closer, and you'll see tucked back here is another large spring. Every once in a while it wouldn't hurt to put a few drops of oil on that as well. There are some more places that you should apply some gear oil, and that would be right here where the hand roller, or where the roller adjuster mechanism is. It mates to a gear right here. You should also put some gear oil there. On the other side of the machine there is also another gear mechanism right here that you can put a few drops of oil on. And don't forget, there is in fact a spring mechanism on this side and another larger spring mechanism behind it. So those are places that you would want to apply oil. You also would not hurt where there are machine surfaces on the machine. For instance, this is the blade hold down bar. It is only partially painted, and so you would want to put some gun oil or some sort of preservative oil on this to keep it from rusting, because it is a machine surface made of cast iron. Also, the top roller is machined but not painted, and so you would want to go ahead and put a light coating of gun oil or something like that on it to stop it from rusting as well. So those are the main lubrication points on this machine. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot else that you would need to lubricate on it. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to adjust the machine and some of the options that are on the machine. You do have the option to power this machine by hand using the hand crank lever that's on the side of the machine. Now right now we do have this connected to our motor drive unit as well as our speed reducer unit, so if you turn this, it turns a little bit hard. So if you do decide you want to power it by hand, simply remove the belt from the gear reducer unit underneath the sewing machine. Just remove the belt and you will be able to power it by hand much more easily, because it will turn much easier, and enabling you to turn it over by hand a lot better. So then we're going to talk a little bit about how to adjust the machine. So you'll see here, and I'll have the camera come down very close so that we can see this gap, this light gap that exists between the top roller and the bottom roller. I'm going to turn the crank wheel here. I'm going to turn it in a clockwise direction away from me, and you'll see that the distance between the top roller and the bottom roller increases. And so what happens is, as this distance increases, you're going to notice that it's going to split off less and less leather from the bottom of the piece, so you in effect get a thinner split. As we bring this roller counterclockwise towards me, you'll see that the top roller actually drops down, and that's going to give you a much thicker split. So that's going to hog off a lot more leather from the bottom side of the piece because the top roller is pressing it harder and harder into the bottom roller. So it'll have the effect of taking off a lot of leather. So just remember, and this is sort of a micrometric adjustment. You can turn it one gear at a time, or one gear tooth at a time rather. So you can see as I turn this, you can turn it in very small increments. You can split off approximately 1/2 to 1 ounce at a time on the pieces if you do want to, or if you do in fact want to split off a lot, you can just turn the flywheel here very rapidly and in large amounts, and then you'll see that the roller will go up and down much more vigorously, and so you can split off a lot more leather. So there are some other adjustment points on this machine. If you want to increase the amount of pressure that the bottom roller squeezes against the leather, I'll have the camera pan this direction, and you'll see underneath the machine, you'll see that there's an adjuster screw right here, and that's used to regulate the tension that's on the bottom roller, the amount of pressure by which it squeezes down, or squeezes up rather, on the leather. So in order to increase that tension, you would turn this so that you can press the spring, which is right here, and there is one on the other side as well. So compressing that spring increases the amount of pressure that the bottom roller squeezes against the top roller. There is also a leveling adjustment to level the top roller relative to or to level the bottom roller relative to the blade, and those adjustment screws are here and here. Usually the best thing to do is to take a pair of pliers or take a wrench, because these are pretty hard to turn by hand. So take a pair of pliers or take a wrench, and then you want to go ahead and turn these. And what the objective is you want there to be approximately 1 to 1.5 millimeters distance between this bottom roller and the blade itself. That's usually the best position that will ensure that you get the best split. So usually about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters distance between the bottom roller and the blade. And again, there's 2 adjuster screws on both sides of this, so that you in fact can level one side and then you can level the other side. But ultimately you want about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters clearance between the blade and the bottom roller. When you can remove the blade on this machine for sharpening, and so where you would remove the blade would be by loosening these three Allen head bolts here, here, and here. And then on the underside of the machine, I don't know if our camera can get down here and see this. It might be difficult. There are nuts on the back side of these bolts, so you want to go ahead and remove those nuts as you back the bolt out. And then what will happen is this top piece, which we call the blade hold down bar, this top piece will actually pick up all the way off the machine. And so then from there, you can just simply remove the blade. The blade is concealed underneath this hold down bar. A lot of people think that this metal colored part right here is the blade, but in fact it is not. There is a blade that is concealed underneath this hold down bar. So when then you can pull the blade out, sharpen, service it, clean it, or do whatever is required, and then put it back in the machine. Now these adjusters right here are used to adjust the position of the blade relative to the bottom roller. And so these are preset from the factory, and there are set nuts that hold these in place. So you shouldn't have to mess with this too much. Just remember, when you're ready to take the blade out for sharpening, take these 3 bolts off, take the hold down bar off, and in fact the blade will come out without having to mess around with these adjuster screws. So just leave these adjuster screws alone. So anyhow, that's just a very brief introduction to the service and maintenance on our Model 8020 leather splitter. And my name is Ryan Neal, and I'm from the USA offices of Neal's Saddlery and Harness, Cowboy Sewing Machines, and High-Tech Sewing Machines. If you have any additional questions about this machine, or you would like to purchase one, please feel free to give me a call at area code 330-692-1418, and I thank you for your time today.
Okay.